care about is getting reelected. We're all going to die because these idiots can't make decisions. People are debating stuff in the committee while Iran's making nuclear weapons. It'll be my head on the chopping block and I'll show you that. My soul, my conscience will be clear when I leave this world. Will yours? You should take my deviance class. I'll teach you about selfishness and narcissism. Stuff you don't like in other people, I don't want to see it in this class. And that is a sign of it. Okay? Alright, let's move on. Alright, today I'm going to show you how to upload your test onto Blackboard, and then we're going to go over the test a little bit. Then we're going to talk about the time binding book. Okay? I told you in my earlier class this, we're going to talk about the book, and if I get blank stares, we're going to have a written quiz. Too many blank stares in this class when I ask questions. It's unacceptable. I don't know if this was the class or my deviance class when I asked people whether or not you're going to vote. 10% of the class raised their hands. I don't understand that. I just don't. And some of the people who said they weren't going to vote, the same people you complain about the government not caring about you. Why should they?
I have a question.
Yes?
If you're from another state, do you have to transfer over?
No, you can actually vote as an absentee ballot, or you can re-register here. It depends on where your licensed driver's license is from. So make sure wherever the state you're from that they have an absentee voting card. You'd have to call the election commission of the state itself. How long have you been in this state? Let me put it another way. Do you have a New York State driver's license? Then you need to contact whatever state that is. Yes, in the back.
How long does it take for that step to vote?
It doesn't take that long at all. You just have to go, you have to find somebody who does registration. It can either be at the election committee. I don't know if they can do it online yet, but I'm telling you, there's part of the problem. So maybe I'm criticizing you a little bit too harshly. One of the issues that's always been the case, and I'm not going to belabor this point, but my point about the voting is, when you don't vote, what you're saying is, I don't care about the rest of the country. My life's fine, why should I care? Okay? And that's what allows politicians to do what they do. Barack Obama was only elected by the votes of 25% of the American public. 45% of people did not vote in this country. Every single president we have had since the beginning of time has been a minority president, meaning that they've never had the support of 50% of the American public. Although when John F. Kennedy died, 60% of the American public said they voted for him. Except for the people whose wives he was sleeping with. Who's probably why Lee Harvey Oswald blew his brains out in Dallas. He probably slept with his wife. Yes?
I just have a comment. I'm from Norway, and we have approximately 96% of the people.
But you have compulsory voting, don't you?
What do you mean?
They make you vote? Or they
No,
fine you?
No. You can do whatever you want, but 96% of the people.
Do you think that
decide to vote.
makes the system better or worse?
I think it's hard to say, but I think it makes it better because everybody gives their opinion.
Does it make politicians care about more things?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Norway is a little bit smaller of a country, so
Yeah,
it's
of
easier
course.
to do that.
Yeah, of course.
I want to say nearly half the population lives in Oslo, don't they?
Yeah,
So like 4 or 5 million people in Norway?
45%.
Yes.
When I was in Argentina, I have family there, and I think they get fined if they don't vote.
Right. And same in a lot of other countries. But even in places like Canada, where it's not compulsory, they get 70–80% of the public voting. So now, I'm not sure it's going to translate into that, but my bigger issue is, again, from a systemic point, since I'm a sociologist, there's a structural issue here. Why in the world, when you turn 18, you should be registered to vote automatically? That's absurd nonsense, isn't it? To have to actively, and I'll tell you right now, there's no doubt in my mind that bureaucrats in the federal government and politicians alike don't really want people to vote. They especially don't want poor people to vote because they know who poor people are going to vote for, and it's not going to be them. And the more people that you have to take care of in a country of 308 million people, the more diluted and watered down politicians feel their program is, But there is an absurdity to making Americans go out and have to register to vote. And here's why I tell you that there's a ridiculousness in government's behavior. Here's the other thing. When you register, when you turn 18, you're a man, which this is a whole other issue about gender discrimination in this country. Everybody thinks it's only one way, but it goes the other way too. If you're a man in this country, when you turn 18, they send you a thing that says, here, fill this box in and register this, because in case we get into World War III, we're going to draft you and send you off to a foreign land to be eviscerated by a nuclear weapon or some kind of biological, because World War III is not going to last more than 5 minutes. Okay, I can tell you that right now. And if the way the Israelis and the Iranians are talking, it might just be a couple years from now. The way these two stupid countries are at each other's throats. I mean, my gosh, they both have nuclear weapons and they hate each other. That's a recipe for disaster. And on top of that, neither one of them is concerned about the fact that if they started a fight, it would start World War III. Do you really think the United States and Russia would stand by while Israel and Iran fought a war? Okay? But anyway, all right, with selective service, they don't make you work hard to go do that. You know why? Because it's a form of slavery. How dare this society tell people that you have to go shoot people? What kind of nonsense is that? In other countries, it's even worse. Okay? Let's take Israel, for example. 4 years compulsory service in the military, man or woman. Have fun with that. Okay? And I'll tell you right now, I don't really think it's a good idea to have 100% of your population that has potentially killed somebody. And I'll tell you right now, I have a student in my deviance class, and we're talking about Hitler. He said point blank to the class, war messes you up. I mean, it's as simple as that. I don't think a lot of Americans, especially politicians, don't seem to understand this. They act like want to pretend like Afghanistan and Iraq is going on. The Iraqis know what's going on. Go ask the Iraqis what war does to you. You know? Go ask the former Soviet citizens in Eastern Europe what war does to you. And this is what's at stake when you vote, to some extent. Okay? Had Bush been voted out of office in 2004, the Iraq war would have stopped. There's no doubt in my mind. If they wouldn't have put him off in the first place, do you think Al Gore would have attacked Iraq? Why would he have done that? Saddam Hussein didn't try to kill George Bush's or Al Gore's father. Al Gore was more interested in getting us off foreign oil. Remember when Obama, and here's to show you that I'm an equal opportunity ass kicker when it comes to stupid political parties. President Obama said he was going to end foreign dependence on oil in this country. Has he? We import more oil now from Saudi Arabia than we did before. This is what's at stake. Vote. I'm not telling you to vote. I would never try to tell you. If you want to vote for a third, I don't care if you vote for a communist or an anarchist. I really don't care. You know, if you want to be crazy, vote for some of these kooky candidates. I'll tell you right now, hopefully those of you who are going to vote for the first time in a presidential election, you'll start to realize that there's more than just 2 parties in this country. The presidential ballot is this long. There's the Natural Law Party, there's the Workers' Party, there's the Communist Party, there's the Reform Party, there's the Libertarians. It goes on and on and on. And maybe some of them are viable alternatives. I don't think most Americans are going to vote for the Communist Party. Besides, you're already voting for the Communist Party. They're called elected officials in Congress and the presidency. I mean, my gosh, the United States taxpayers owns half the countries or half the companies in this country. The auto industry is completely socialized. The healthcare industry is socialized. Farm subsidy, on and on. So I find it funny that Americans get all upset that there's communists and socialists on the ballot when the government is about as communist as it gets. I mean, my God, even China's like, man, you let your government control the economy this bad? Anyway, somebody else had something here? Quickly, and then we got to move on. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, like you said yourself, even Obama promised all these things, and people voted for him, and then they're all empty promises. So, like, what does voting really mean if you're just voting for rhetoric?
And here's the issue. I'm sure Obama probably does want to do that. And I guarantee you that 80% of the American people is in favor of that. But they don't fund his campaign, and so why should he care what the hell people have to say? And since most people, middle-class people, don't vote, and lower-class people don't vote for the most part, who are you going to listen to? Someone who's not going to vote for you, not give you any money, or someone who's going to give you $1 million to your campaign and make sure that all their employees vote for you, which is what ExxonMobil does. And I'll tell you right now, the government doesn't run this country. The proof is, AIG and Fannie and Freddie, which by the way were pseudo-government corporations, were essentially violating the law for 10 years. Enron was violating the law for 10 years. Your government violates the laws. Okay? I don't know who's running this country. It's not me. Because the nonsense that's going on would stop immediately. I frankly would have probably half the Congress tried for treason. We haven't had a budget in 2.5 years in this country. The government uses money from China to fund its nonsense. Medicare money comes from China. Your government let every single almost every single manufacturing job in this country go to China. Without even standing in the way. Not only not standing in the way, but open the door. There you go. Have fun. Anyway, let's move on. I'm not going to prevaricate on this all day long, but I do want to say, please make sure that the attendance sheet gets around. That stuff bothers me. Okay? And to me, there is no worse crime than narcissism. None. All other crimes come from narcissism. Think about murder. Why would somebody murder somebody because somebody looked at somebody funny? Because they're a narcissist. Why would you steal from somebody if they were your friend? Because you're a narcissist. Look at Hitler, narcissist. Stalin, narcissist. The leader of North Korea, narcissist. Leaders in Congress, narcissists. All they care about is promoting themselves. This is the specter of evil. Obsessing and promoting yourself above others. Do you really just think from a general perspective? This ain't some opinion or polemic debate. Think about this. Do you want to have narcissistic friends? Would you marry a narcissist? You want to work for a narcissist? You want a narcissist as president? Because these people are dangerous and you know they're dangerous. Narcissists kill people. Narcissists rape people. Narcissists put people to death because they don't like their religion. And this system, unfortunately, promotes self-absorption. Look at celebrity culture. Why should I care about Whitney Houston? Because she addicted her children to drugs? If she was anybody else, they would have arrested her. I had a student in one of my classes, my media, culture and society class at Malloy, say that, oh, if you're addicted to drugs, it's your own fault. If your parents turned you on to drugs, it's your own fault. And I told him, I said, go ahead and get a kid addicted to drugs and tell their parents what you just said. See if they agree with you. You have to ask yourself about a system that allows celebrities to get away with stuff like this. Do you realize that Whitney Houston was doing cocaine with her daughter when she was 12 and 13 years old? I mean, my God, and people were going, she's a hero, all of it is a tragedy. For her family and her friends, it's a tragedy. And I'll tell you right now, I like Whitney Houston's music. Just like I like Charlie Sheen's movies. But I don't like Charlie Sheen. And Whitney Houston should have been in jail. And worst of all, I think, with Whitney, it's not her behavior, but the actions of her friends and family who did absolutely nothing to stop this from occurring. Same with Heath Ledger, same with Charlie Sheen, same with Amy Winehouse. Anyway. Alright. I often told people I'm like a waking dragon. Don't poke the dragon unless you want fire to come out of my mouth. I'm telling you. And I'll tell you right now, if I ever get into politics, there's a very large percentage of the American people that believe exactly what I believe. And would follow right behind me. And now I got a YouTube channel. It's just a matter of time. Do you really think things are going to get better in this country or worse as time goes on? $15 trillion, that's going to get paid down? Environmental disasters going on? Let me ask you something. With a $15 trillion national debt, if a major earthquake destroys California, which is the 6th largest economy in the world, what's going to happen to the social order in this country? There's going to be murder in the streets. Look at Greece. They're fighting over stuff that was just a bill that passed in Congress. Let's hope it doesn't happen. I'd hope that human beings would have much more of a sense of humanitarianism around them, but the displays around here during Tropical Storm Eileen, which I had my windows open the entire time as it blew through, people were knocking each other down to get the last flashlight from the grocery store. There are no evacuation routes off this island. You better get a boat. Or something. One of them little jet packs or like a thing you can put on your back. It reminds me of airliners. Don't put a flotation device. Don't make my seat to a flotation device. Make it into a parachute. What the hell's wrong with you? You're going to have me bob up and down on the water so sharks can eat me? That's all you're doing. You know? Should say shark preparation cushion. Right? Let me tell you something. And you saw the miracle on the Hudson, remember that? You know why it was a miracle? Because how do most water landings end? With every single human being dying. You're more likely to survive a land crash than a water crash. And if you've ever been water skiing at 35 miles an hour and hit water, what's that feel like? Pulls your eyelids up and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it feels like someone hit you with a sledgehammer. I mean, it's nasty. And think of airplanes. They have this Airbus new Superjet. They just found the wings are cracking off the thing. It's a brand new plane. I guess somebody forgot to put the duct tape on there or something, right? I mean, my gosh. You have a $2 billion plane, you're going to put duct tape around it? Sounds like how my apartment's falling apart. Anyway. At least it's not my house. That's what I love about renting. At least it's not. I didn't go out and buy this crap hole. You did. Okay? And the difference is I can leave. You still have to live in the crap hole after I leave. So anyway. Alright. Sorry if I seem a little out of it. I'm just very, very upset. It's been really goofy, disturbing, very angering things going on. So I'm sorry about that in general. But still, I still mean it with the attendance sheet. Please. And now you know, I mean, this ain't a pet peeve for me. Narcissism, selfishness, self-centeredness, this is deadly business to me. I told you, there is no worse characteristics in this world in the minds. I'm telling you, go ask the psychologist. Mass murderers are all narcissists, every single one of them. And if you've ever worked for a narcissist, I don't need to explain to you who these people are, do I? They are evil. They are absolute, pure, dark, black, nasty, oblivion, black hole evil. They should be locked away in a hole in the ground.
Is it more like a sociopath than narcissism?
What?
Is it more of like a sociopath?
Well, a narcissist is a sociopath.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in American culture, we do things to encourage narcissism.
Yeah.
Like the capitalist system in this country encourages narcissistic behavior. Mark Zuckerberg stabbed his friends in the back and stole an idea from them, and now he's stealing your information. And do you really think that Mark Zuckerberg cares about connecting people together, or that he just cares, give me the damn money? Do you really think Steve Jobs was enamored with that all he wanted to do was, I want to help people communicate? Or did he just want the money and the fame and the attention? Why was it always him out front going, look at this magnificent device that I invented? You didn't invent nothing, dude. Some slaves back at your factory invented it, and you put your name on it. Steve Jobs is the type of person in a meeting where he'd go, somebody would pitch a good idea. How about an iPad? He's like, no, I don't like that. How about a tablet computer that we call an iPad? We're like, wait, that was my idea. No, it's not. I mean, that's the type of person he was. Okay? And Apple's populated with it. You can't care about people when you run slave factories in China. You just can't do it. So anyway, all right, enough. All right, a couple things quickly. First of all, we're not going to meet, obviously, on Monday. There's a chance for you to register to vote, although you bet the election office is closed on President's Day of all things in this world. And the other thing, here's another thing about elections. Elections in this country on Tuesdays. Sometimes the polls close at 5 o'clock. What are you trying to say to somebody who's poor and can't take the day off? You don't deserve to vote? Other countries, they shut the entire economy down. In Mexico, they shut the bars down. Probably open them right afterwards, because you need a drink if you're voting in Mexico. Like, the really vicious drug cartel or the less vicious drug cartel? Who should we vote for? You know, the corrupt politician who's taking money from American corporations, or the guy who's taking money from Colombian drug lords? Colombian drug lords. At least they speak Spanish. Anyway, So on Tuesday we're supposed to have class, but I cannot meet that day because I teach at Malloy. But what I will do is I'm going to send you links to 2 videos. One of them is going to be what I'm going to do is give you a choice to watch a certain episode of Undercover Boss if you want. I mean, you can choose which one you want. I want you to watch one of them, which is only about 40-some minutes, and they're on Hulu. I'll send you the link for them. And then there's another one I want you to watch. I think it's about an hour long, if not a little bit shorter. It's called China Blue, and I want you to look at what goes on, the philosophy of capitalism, and how this works on a global sense. And it is a documentary done on a blue jeans factory in China. I think from 2006 to 2007. So you'll get an idea, and I think didn't some of you mention this Made in America thing with the beads and stuff? That's very similar, related. And I don't think people will think enough about this. And again, this is the element here. And I will preface this by saying part of the self-centeredness that Americans display is not their fault. You get taught this, and people, just like people in China get taught not to be individuals or to downplay that. Americans are taught the opposite. They're taught that if you're not unique, you're not an individual, you're absolutely nothing. If you go along and you follow what other people say, you're a follower, you're a conformist, you're weak. Okay? So one of the things here in the United States is most people, and I hope that you're conscious enough not to do this, don't care where their stuff comes from. They don't care how it's made. They don't care that people are abused. They don't care that children and other people are forced into sweatshops. I mean, I wish I had a particle transporter or some kind of machine to take me straight to India, because I'll show you what's going on in Bombay. It's ugly. It's ugly as you get. I mean, the only thing that was probably uglier was this, and it shouldn't shock people about the United States having this past, is the slavery in our past. The difference is, it appears that many plantation owners actually fed their slaves. They don't even feed these people. They still beat them. I don't know if they beat them after or before they give them the food. But still, ugly history. It shouldn't shock anybody that Americans have no qualms about wage slavery. For the longest time, for hundreds of years, even after slavery was outlawed. Was it really outlawed in this country? No, the Jim Crow laws and sharecropping was it was almost worse. Because now, if you're a sharecropper, you got to pay for everything. It's on you. And when you fail, you're going to die. Whereas if, at least under the slave master, at least you had a place to stay. It wasn't good. Okay? Anyway. Alright. So we won't meet on that day, but I'll give you that, and I want you to look at the China Blue thing. I think you'll enjoy it. Alright. Back to this. Alright, this is what you do here. This is how you upload your paper. First of all, this will look different on yours. So you go to Content. This will come up. You click on this. Like I said, this will take you straight to the submit a paper. It won't do it for me. I don't know why. But by clicking on that link, yours should take you right here. Anyway, this should show you. Like this thing, like I've uploaded this before, and now it says 98%. Okay. Partly also because I took that from references online. But differences, I cited it. Now the one thing it won't catch is that if you cited this stuff, it won't catch that. But what it alerts me to is where it came from. Okay, if you see this one, this is the first take-home test, and there's no matching content. Now this is what you do. Just click on. There's 2 ways to do this. Click on Submit Paper. The screen should come up. It'll look better. This is a netbook, so it'll look full on your screen. It shouldn't do the scan. And this is what's wrong with this program. There's windows inside of windows, so it gets a bunch of glitches in it. And I got news for Blackboard. I mean, a hacker with an IQ of 20 can get into your system. I mean, my gosh. I heard a story the other day, and Bloomberg shouldn't be telling people this. You can buy programs online with 24/7 support that allow you to break into a small business or a bank, transfer money to your account, and it'll take 3-4 months before the federal government even knows what happened. or banks, and banks don't use the anti-piracy software. And I'm sitting there going, gee, thanks for telling every Russian gangster and every other degenerate in the United States and wherever else in the world, because I know most of you probably don't understand this. There's a lot of hackers in Russia. I don't know why. Maybe it's because there's a lot of poverty in Russia, and there's virtually no government there, except for some lunatic in the KGB who strangled people with piano wire for fun. His name is Putin. Okay? I mean, I criticize our presidents. At least our presidents haven't strangled people with their bare hands. I mean, that guy's an animal. Okay? And if he gets a chance, he will destroy democracy in Russia. There's no doubt in my mind. There aren't any real elections there anyway. It's like the green M&M and the blue M&M. And like Homer Simpson said, they all end up the same color. On the flip side, anyway, brown, you know. Anyway, so here's how you upload the file. So you go to browse, desktop will come up. Hopefully it won't be this slow. I don't know why this does this every single time. I think computers do this on purpose so they can so you have to wait long enough so they can steal your information or something. Certainly Google does this stuff. Let me put this one up there. So you click on the document, and keep in mind here that it lists the formats that you can use. Don't put a zip file in here, because those things are goofy. I never understood. Zip files are silly. Anyway, it's like the 3.5 inch or 3 1/4 disc and all that. I actually have one on my old computer. Anyway, and I think it's got a zip file too. But here are the .doc, .x, ODT, TXT, PDF, RTF, and HTLM. Now for Apple, I'm not sure if it's going to act funny or what it's going to do. So I would suggest that you try to convert it to a Word file, because if it comes up there, what does Apple list their? What's the suffix at the end?
If you got Word on it, it's just going to save it as a docx.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, it should work, but I've had problems in the past. The good thing about this is that we'll have time. You know what's the silly thing about this? This is supposed to catch plagiarism, but during the finals, so many professors use it that there's like a week delay on the results. And I'm like, what the hell good is that? That's like saying, okay, we're the FDA, we're going to test to make sure this beef isn't tainted, but the results aren't going to come back until you eat the beef. You know, I don't think I'm going to be eating any beef anytime soon. So anyway, the only thing I have to say to FDA officials, you're so convinced of the safety of food, why don't you just go in and eat the food then? Anyway, so you go down here after you upload it, and you go to submit, and it should come up right there. This should show that it's on there. I don't know if you'll be able to click on it or not. There's also another way to do this. I don't know if it'll let you, I don't think it'll let you do both of these things. So if you're concerned that it's going to have a problem, first of all, again, try that converter thing. And I told you, and again, I would say to you, and this was the case with VCRs for a while. There used to be a thing called Betamax, which was actually better than VHS. Remember Laserdisc and all this stuff? That, you know, why Apple and Microsoft choose to engage in this petty, bickering, childish war is beyond me. Because the only thing they hurt are consumers. And what is it about? Now we're back to narcissism again. Bill Gates hates Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs hated Bill Gates. They both wanted to kill each other. I almost bet you that Bill Gates didn't. First of all, I guarantee he didn't shed one tear when Steve Jobs dropped dead. And I wouldn't be shocked. And I hate to impugn Bill Gates, and I can't prove this. I wouldn't have been shocked if he'd have thrown a party, and not a New Orleans funeral. Okay, a party like ding dong, the witch is dead, that kind of stuff. That's how bad narcissism gets. I'll tell you right now, Bill Gates is not listening to anybody criticize his behavior. That's absurd. I'll put him worse than Donald Trump. At least Donald Trump's got some charm. At least he's honest about being a jerk, isn't he? Bill Gates tries to pretend like, I'm just a nerdlinger. I would never hurt anybody. I'll put some tape on my glasses. Because you wouldn't think a lunatic would have tape on their glasses and wear a pocket protector and, you know, wear a turtleneck. I've never seen him without a turtleneck. So not that there's anything wrong with turtlenecks. It's not exactly the greatest. It's like corduroy pants. You're not going to win any fashion shows wearing a turtleneck and corduroy pants. Okay, it's comfortable around the house. There's no doubt about it. Like my friend Paul, he always wears corduroy pants. And part of me wants to tell him, be like, dude, maybe you should rethink the corduroy. Just one day a week. Yeah. Like me, I like to wear jeans, but I don't do it. I'll probably do it more as the semester goes on because I don't care. So you can cut and paste in here. Whatever that says. Did it say something funny? Is there a dirty word on here? Anyway. And then push submit and it should go up there and it'll show the same arrow. So there you go. Alright, any questions on that? Alright, it should be pretty straightforward. Alright, let's go and let's talk a little bit about the book. I'm going to put the test up here, but I am going to write some things on the board. But anyway. So if we look at question number 2 here, it says, according to the time bind and the reading in the intersections reader as well as the lecture material, how has the work world changed over the past 40 years? You can look in the intersections book there. You can, in the first few chapters, Hochschild describes how many people went into the workforce since the 1980s, particularly women. Talks about wage rates, all these other things. So look over the. I will. Here's one of the issues. Since we're not meeting early next week, the next time we're going to have time, and we're going to go over a fair amount of stuff today, and I'll show you stuff. You need to write down page numbers when I tell you this stuff, okay? And don't just use the pages that I'm telling you. Try to explore these issues a little bit more. If you got to think that if I'm giving you a page number out of chapter 5 about a particular question, what else is in chapter 5? Other material you can use. So be a little proactive here. Be creative. Have some fun with this as well. Some of you like, yeah, right, fun. Anyway, some of you fun is dissecting a pig. To me, that's probably the worst. That's the last thing I want to do. I ran over a possum the other day. It made me feel bad for 2 hours. I even tried to get out of the way. And I don't like possums. They got rabies. They eat garbage. They look funny. They're cross-eyed. I mean, they're crazy looking. They look like something that would jump on your face and give you rabies. Raccoons are even worse. They can kill full-grown dogs. Okay, don't tell that to a Doberman, though. I'd love to see a raccoon and a Doberman go at it. It's not legal, but anyway. Didn't stop Michael Vick. So a couple things to focus on. Focus on level of competition in the workplace, instability and the move by women into the workplace. How has that impacted the corporate world in particular? Why did some Amerco employees want to be at work more than they wanted to be home? Here are some places in the book we can talk about this. I actually love teaching this class twice in one day because then I can do it in different ways. But anyway, and I still cover the same material. I think did I read the part where the guy was talking about how, or the wife was talking about how her husband missed their children's birthdays and stuff like that? We'll get to that here in a minute. All right. Let me show you this part here. All right, on page 108. This not only talks about the element of work being home and home being work, but also talks about even though a lot of people view home to be work and work to be home, there's still issues. This also deals with the gender element here. This is on page 108 at the bottom. But Amerco women didn't need survey results to know what men were thinking. Among their colleagues, they tended to see 4 types of men. The first type they felt judged a woman as he would a man and saw both as full human beings. These were the men with whom it was wonderful to work. The second type judged a woman as he would a man, but applied to her the same harsh competitive frame of mind he applied to his fellow man. So that's sort of an equality to some extent. And I know men like this, and they're very adamant about this idea that if women are equal, then they're equal in all spheres, and that means I'm not opening doors for you. I'm not helping you carry stuff around. I'm not going to help you move furniture. I'm not going to help you with any handiwork. I'm not going to give you any more consideration than I would be a man. And I'll tell you right now, what do a lot of men do when people get into arguments with them or challenge them in public? This is a very dangerous attitude to have, isn't it? Men who feel this way, some of them, at least a small percentage of them, will hit women. They will attack women just like they would attack a man. And if you run your mouth at a bar, they don't see a woman. They just see a man. They just see a person running their mouth. Okay? And the proof is, I'm sure some of you come across this on the road. Okay? Although, one note of support for women, I have yet to see a woman get so raged up on the street as to pull a gun on somebody or a knife or to stop or all these other things. So, man, you got a lot of work to do. Especially out on the road. I mean, my gosh, what the hell is wrong with people? You're going to get in a fight because you're going 10 miles under the speed limit and I'm upset with you? That's what you want your life to end over? It's like a statistic I saw one time. The majority of, or at least the majority of like spur-of-the-moment murders, not premeditated murders, are stupid stuff like somebody stepped on my foot at a bar or somebody hit on my girlfriend. That kind of stuff gets people shot and killed. So, as much as these men say I'm just treating women equally, dial it back a little. Probably a good thing to do for a lot of men. I mean, I express righteous indignation and anger, but I would never go out here and do some of the things that... First of all, I don't own a gun, and it's probably a good thing. And secondarily, if I had one, I wouldn't carry it around loaded like Plaxico Burress or one of these other morons who think that they're tough, or I'm hard, watch me strut down the street with my gun. You know, where that gun was, he could have shot something a lot worse than his leg, okay? Think about that, Plax. It's probably why he's calm now. I'll tell you right now, you go ask Plax where anger gets you. Okay? Gets you to jail. Anyway. Going on, a third type, often polite, helpful, and unthreatened, saw women as exotic foreigners. The fourth type saw women as alien rivals who were out to get his promotion. It was this fourth type of aggrieved and displaced male colleague who truly cast the evil eye. Listen to this, though. And this continues in the home, this dominance of men in this evil eye thing. Though generally quiet about the matter, men of this fourth type often resented women's luck and supposedly being able to take advantage of Americo's family-friendly policies, which they saw as inapplicable to men. And men are upset about this. They feel that women use the excuse of the pain of birth, of the process of giving birth, as an excuse to take 6 months off, whereas if you're a man, even though you have the right to take paternity leave, there's not a single man at this company that would dare to take off 6 full months. And you remember in one of the chapters you were supposed to read for the day, 2 men actually did ask for paternity leave. And what happened when they came back? What kind of attitude did they get, especially from their male colleagues? The women some of the women were applauding them. What attitude did they get?
They assumed that the father was into it.
Right, and what did they accuse them of doing?
Taking a vacation.
That was part of it, but doing what while they were at home? Something very offensive to men. That you better not accuse men of this.
Acting like a mom.
So maybe, well, that's part of it, but
They were joking around that they were probably like watching soap operas.
yeah, don't dare tell a masculine man that he's watching soap operas when he was changing dirty diapers. And I'll tell you right now, men would probably rather have you think that they were watching soap operas than changing diapers. And also, is that a vacation to have a baby puke on you and throw food at the wall and knock stuff over and cry at 3 o'clock in the morning? I mean, look, I think there's way too much idealism around what it means to be a parent. It's hard work from the beginning to the end, and then when they turn 18, they're off and running on their own world, and you never know. Now they might end up like Charlie Sheen. Is that what you want? And what do you think, Charlie? Don't you think Martin Sheen takes partly responsibility for his son's behavior? Martin was an alcoholic. He had issues with drugs. Charlie Sheen, I remember seeing an interview one time, said that he used to skip school almost 80% of the time when he was in middle school and just hang out and play video games in an arcade and smoke pot. That's what his life was like. And here's the other part. Even if you're a good, conscientious parent, does that guarantee that your child's not going to grow up to be a bum or a murderer or a rapist or abuse people or just in general not be a good person? So at least at work, right, stuff's pretty much out in front of you, and you can go home at night. And if something goes wrong at the workplace, it's not your responsibility solely. Okay, which I think is unfair with parents. Parents have to compete with a lot of things that their kids get into. Anyway, but again, there's this impression among the men and also some of the women, especially ones who don't have kids, that women and especially men who take off time for paternity or maternity leave are just lazy bums. And they're just trying to avoid work, and you're trying to hurt the company, and you're disloyal. And when you layer that, one of those things is bad enough. But now 5 or 6 of those things, and you come back and you hear this nonsense, and because of this pressure to work constantly, it reinforces this workaholic behavior. So women come back, even the women come back after 2 weeks. Okay? And if you've ever talked to those of you who have much younger siblings, and you were 10 or 11 when your mom was pregnant, you know what kind of, just being pregnant is madness. It makes you emotional, it messes with your body. Oh, and if you haven't noticed, most people, and especially women, don't like to gain 50 pounds and have their stomach stick out like this. One of the most often repeated things I hear from pregnant women towards their husbands is, "I'm so ugly." Right? And afterwards, many times the weight stays with you. Okay? And on top of that, now you're trying to lose the weight, eat healthier, but you can't get any sleep because the damn baby's crying 24 hours a day. Okay? And babies don't have normal sleep schedules. They sleep for like 3 hours, and they're up for 5, and then they go back to sleep for 4, and then they're up for 6. It's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. I wish new parents, I wish people who just were thinking about getting married would sit down and talk to somebody who has 5 kids. Go ask John and Kate plus 8. And they had help from TV crews and nannies and all kinds of stuff. They had money. How'd that marriage end? Yeah. And Kate herself was accused of being cruel to a couple of her kids. They were at I think an Oprah taping or something. One of them wanted water. She said, "Forget it. You ain't giving me water." Okay? And I don't know how in the world the Octomoms still have their kids. I don't know how that's legal. But that's California for you. That's why people love it. The state where nobody gives a damn about anything. I mean, that's basically what it is. I mean, you run a $40 billion deficit up and elect Arnold Schwarzenegger as your governor, I don't think that reflects kindly upon your intelligence. How did Arnold Schwarzenegger? He did a great job, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger, he did a great job, right? And he would never cheat on his wife or anything, right? He's a good, decent character. He would never take steroids either, right? Or be engaged in sexual orgies or do drugs. He would never do that, right? He did all those things. And now the governor of California is Jerry Brown, who they used to call Governor Moonbeam. And the security guards, his Secret Service, said that in the 1970s, they witnessed a party where him and a bunch of his friends were doing coke. Only in California. Although David Patterson said he did coke. So, anyway. Alright. So on top of that, though, it goes on here, occasionally such prejudice would seep out during required group training sessions for professionals and managers called men and women as colleagues. So they're trying to teach people to coexist. One engineer in research and development, for instance, suddenly exclaimed while searching faces in his group for support, "All the working mothers get to use these policies, why we don't." And here's the thing. This is the difference between the formal company policies and how things are really done. Is that true that men aren't allowed to take these paternity leave or medical leave? Is that true by the nature of the law? No. But the corporate culture, which runs the company, says no. That's actually what we call decoupling. I'll write it on the board here in a minute. I'll write that down. Decoupling means, and this happens in a lot of work. This happens in almost all workplaces. Like here, there's like a set of rules about how you should do all these things. But we know that not only do students violate these rules, but the administration violates these rules. The president of the university violates these rules. The faculty violates these rules. Okay, there's paperwork that's supposed to be handed in, it never gets handed in. All kinds of stuff like that. Okay, there's rules about when you're supposed to put book orders in, that never gets followed, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of nonsense. But I would say this is the least of the offenders. At corporations, what happens is, for example, who imposed the family-friendly policies on businesses? Did they decide to do this in and of themselves? Who imposed these rules? Who? The government. And they did it because businesses were willing to do this? No, because businesses said, make us. Make us give time off to people whose parents are dying. Because we don't want to. And businesses will never come out and say this kind of stuff, but as far as they're concerned, a lot of businesses are this cruel and vicious. And you remember the episode I showed you of The Office about how Michael was having these issues and Dwight had none of these issues? That if your parents are sick, tough. Like, hey, you know what? They're going to die anyway. What do you need to spend time with them for? Your kids don't need you to be at their recitals and sporting events and to take them places. Nah. You know? Like, for example, my grandmother was dying and she was on her deathbed. I got to talk to her the day before Easter. I could not leave. And this school wasn't going to give me time off either because it was right during finals. I never got to talk to her before she died. I got there 2 days later. You think I'm happy about that? My mother was dying in her deathbed too, and I had to sit at school while I was waiting to take a final exam. I never got to say one to her at the end. And it wasn't my decision that was that way. It was this stupid world with all its dumb rules. Because organizations on a lot of levels are like vampires. They want to suck the blood out of you and throw you away. And I'm telling you right now, watch the play, those of you who here takes theater classes. What's the story of Death of a Salesman? How does his company treat him? You ever read that play?
Yeah, he ends up killing himself because he thinks it's better for...
Because he wants insurance money.
Yeah.
And one of the lines he says to his boss, "A man is not a piece of fruit. You can't just throw the peel away when you're done with me." His son even says to him, "You're nothing but a hard-working drummer who landed in the ash can like everybody else." And his wife even says, he works for a company and he opens up unheard of territory. And at the age of 65, they take his salary away? This is who we're talking about here. If business had their way, I'm telling you right now, they would chain you to your desk and beat you with whips. Let me ask you one more thing. What institutions were involved, other than the government, in exploiting people in the form of slavery in this country? Why was that done? Because the government wanted that to happen? Why? What institutions? Religious institutions were saying that stuff? Slavery was done for money, wasn't it? Period, point blank. There's no other explanation. Killing the natives, that was done for money. As soon as they found gold on someone's land, it was like, get the hell out. All of a sudden, now we got to get rid of you. Corporations are nasty and mean. And it's not necessarily because everybody is blind to the ethical behavior. It's just that, look, here's the way it works. The CEO says to his underlings, hey, you got to crack the whip on these people or they're going to take advantage of you. You got to make sure profits are high. So he gets scared. He starts thinking of all the stuff he's going to lose. He starts thinking of all the family and stuff like that. Okay? Oh my God, my boat, my house, my car, my future, my kid's college education. Man, I got to go down there and really hand it to them. Okay? And so he tells his boss. And then they tell their underlings. And by the time it's on, everybody's so afraid to do anything that nobody even bothers to speak up that they feel that something unethical is. Okay? Anyway, let me continue with this. Why should the company make it easy to blend work and family? That's prejudice against those of us with traditional families, and we have to do it without the extra money and two incomes. Rising to the challenge of warding off the evil eye at work, Denise gave her all without regret. At home, however, she gave only part of herself and with mixed feelings. You know, according to Hochschild, if you just took this as the word of reality, you'd think that companies are trying to destroy families. And I got news for companies. If you destroy families, there's no more kids. If there's no more kids, there's no more slaves for you to beat. Okay? There's no more consumers for you to fool, Walmart. There's nothing you can do anymore. And again, it really is, I think for most people in businesses, they feel trapped in a system that they cannot stop. It's almost like Nazism. That if you dare to speak out against the system, Hitler would kill you. And it's similar with corporations. You dare to speak. They won't kill you, although you never know. I almost, although I hate to make this assumption, I almost think if Donald Trump could execute people, I'm not sure how much I would be a frightening world. Imagine if business leaders could execute people. I mean, my gosh. It's bad enough the government can do that. Okay? But essentially, this element here of attacking families, attacking the ideology behind families, this is very frightening to a lot of people. And this isn't just the lower level employees. The upper level employees are getting this treatment too. Okay? So I would say both the rich, wealthy people and the middle class people, you all have a stake in trying to potentially change this. For she felt within herself an intensifying conflict between her need to plan dinner, for example, and her desire not to. She couldn't understand why this was so, but every night became a bizarre kind of agony. Listen to this. Listen to this. Is this what a life should be like? Because if this is the way life should be like, you can transfer me to another galaxy right now. I'd rather deal with a bunch of aliens who are going to suck the brain out of my head than this kind of nonsense. Okay, at least it'll be over within 5 minutes. And if this is what life has become, what is going to be happening in the future? Listen to this. I would come home, and this is a woman whose father was an alcoholic. Pour her a glass of wine, open the refrigerator, and try to figure out what to cook. As I did, I would begin to cry. Does this sound like normal behavior? Does this sound like healthy behavior? I like to ask Canadians if do they cry at the refrigerator when they come home? Because I doubt it. I'll tell you right now, and I've mentioned this before, you know I've criticized Canada too, but I love Canadians. And it's good to have them on the border. It's better to have them on the border than a psychotic country like, take your pick, Iran, or all these other weird, or Saudi Arabia, or one of these goofy countries. But anyway, Canadians aren't pouring into this country to get jobs. And there's a reason. Right? They have no interest in coming here and living. They think, right or wrong, they think Americans are insane. They think you're out of control. They think you're materialistic. They think you're violent. And I'll tell you right now, they don't want to fight any more wars with the United States. They've had it with that. They don't want to get dragged into Iraq. They don't want to get dragged. But they're there. Partly because we tell them, look, you either show up or else. Like, we'll stick Mexico on you. Because your army can't be any bigger than the National Guard of Ohio. Okay? They look at this type of stuff, and maybe sometimes that's the only way we can understand how wrong this is. This doesn't go on in other countries. Not to this level, although some places it's worse, some places it's better. Okay? In Japan, this is almost as bad. They crack the whip there too. And I'll tell you right now, in Japan, you don't dare to speak up against your corporate leader. It's about as dumb as you can get. I couldn't break the cycle of crying between 6 and 7 o'clock. Is it normal for someone to cry for an hour? I mean, I don't think I cried for a sustained hour when my grandmother died. And I was broken apart. Imagine what this woman is going through. That got to be a daily habit. I was feeling sorry for myself. Why couldn't Daniel see that I needed help? That's her husband. He's supposed to take care of me. I count on him for that. Of course, his response was to just put more distance between us. This has gone on for a couple years, and it's going on still. Denise suspected that her problem had something to do with the fact that as a child of an alcoholic, she'd grown up never daring to depend on anybody, a state of mind that had come to include Daniel. So each night she took charge and edged him out of the decision-making. This is a dysfunctional relationship going on here. This is not going to end well. This is a divorce. This is a divorce waiting to happen. Or worse, domestic violence. Who knows? Okay? And don't always assume that the man is the one that's doing the beating, although it's 85%. It's like rape. It's like 98% of the time it's a man attacking a woman, and the other 1.5 to 2% of the time it's a man attacking another man. Okay, very rarely do women ever rape men, and similar with domestic violence, but it happens a lot more. And I'll tell you right now, women also, wives are much more likely to kill their husbands now. So take that, Scott Peterson. At the same time, she desperately wanted him to decide what to cook for dinner, to cook it, and in general take responsibility at home. She wanted a husband at work on the second shift, which that's the home life shift. 2 children, not 3. For his part, Daniel dreaded making decisions without her for fear of being slapped down, yet he too had deeply conflicting desires, for he wanted an open, communicative, nurturant wife, even as he treated Denise like an executive delegating tasks to him as she saw fit. Each was suffering in silence. Denise crying by herself in the refrigerator. Daniel brooding during his commutes to and from work. Looking back over the past few years, Denise reflected, I feel guilty that Daniel had the short end of the stick. I didn't realize until quite recently how upset he was and how left out he felt. I mean, look, this woman is apologizing for this guy. Would you apologize for this guy? Here's why I would say that this guy doesn't deserve any sympathy. When his wife is crying at the refrigerator for an hour, is he coming by and stopping it? Could he do something to stop it? How about learning to cook? I mean, how hard is that? Watch a cooking show, dude. Make spaghetti. That takes 5 minutes. Or 10. I mean, come on. Cooking's not, trust me, I do it all the time. Cooking's not that hard. Okay? Or it's very minimal. You know what? You know what she should do? Go buy him some chicken nuggets. Be like, dude, until you learn how to cook, that's dinner every night. Just get him a 6-pack of nuggets. Don't even get him 20. Okay? Somebody like this doesn't deserve 20 nuggets. Or maybe they do, because then they'll drop dead. Okay? 20th nugget is probably like salmonella on the inside or something. This makes me feel very guilty about my kids too. It seems like such a long stretch of time I haven't been there for them, and all they see is the stress and anxiousness of me trying to get, through the chores, and the kids ain't helping. I remember there wasn't a time when there was my sister and then two of my stepbrother and stepsister. We did everything in the house. The only thing we didn't do was cook, mow the lawn, take the trash, and what the gender difference became was my sisters complained about doing the dishes, and we complained about having to mow the grass. Which is funny because now I look back on when I was 12 years old, mowing the grass seemed like an interminable task, like rolling a boulder up a hill. Now it's like I do it with one hand. But when you're 12, stuff seems stupid, you know, and you don't want to. And it was always like they'd make us do this stuff on the weekend. It's like, excuse me, don't you realize we go to school? You know? Why my stepdad would lay like a lump of garbage on the couch. Anyway. I still don't think he knows how to boil water for spaghetti, seriously. All they see, and I'm not sure he knows how to dress himself either, frankly. I know he doesn't know how to do laundry. I mean, you want to talk about a dependent. But my stepdad was from the baby boom where his mom never taught him anything about anything. My mom taught me how to sew, how to cook, all this stuff, because she got a divorce and she didn't want me to be, and she also didn't want some jackass. She didn't want me to be a jackass husband. So anyway, which ain't going to be a problem because I ain't going to be anybody's husband. They should remember, or wife, for that matter. They should remember laughter, not mom crying because she can't figure out what's for dinner. Okay? Now, there's also some other places in the book. Let me find this real quick here. Where this woman is talking about what happens when she comes home from work. Yeah, chapter 2 is some good stuff for question number 2, the front part of that one. Also on page 27, it's about wages there. And I love this. This says it all here. This is on page 28 at the bottom. In a 1995 national study, 48% of American working women and 61% of men claim they would still want to work even if they had enough money to live as comfortably as you would like. When asked what was very important to their decision to take their current job, only 35% of respondents in one national study said salary or wage, whereas 55% mentioned gaining new skills. So as much as people say that they don't want to take off work, it also extends on 38 here. Listen to this. This is on page 36. This is where she talks about one of the main ideas in her book. At the second full paragraph it says, if the purpose and nature of family and work differ so drastically in our minds, it seemed reasonable to assume that people's emotional experiences of the two spheres would differ profoundly too. In Haven in a Heartless World, the social historian Christopher Latch, which by the way, to back up what I was saying earlier, Christopher Latch also wrote a book called The Culture of Narcissism. And I don't think he was talking about Canada. Poor Canadians. At least they're not narcissists. Anyway, I do drink a lot. I got relatives there. They love beer. They put us to shame. Where workers sought refuge from the social historian Christopher Latch drew a picture of family as a haven to hide from work. Where workers sought refuge from the cruel world of work. Painting in broad strokes, we might imagine a picture like this. At the end of a long day, a weary worker opens his front door and calls out, "Hi, honey, I'm home." He takes off his uniform, puts on a bathrobe, opens a beer, picks up the paper, and exhales. Ain't no newspapers anymore. Although there's one right here. Whatever its strains, home is where he's relaxed most himself. At home, he feels that people know him, understand him, appreciate him for who he really is. At home, he is safe. Now, this is an ideal reality. When people make these ridiculously nostalgic statements about the 1950s. The 1950s home life was not Leave It to Beaver. It was probably more brutal than you could ever imagine. Fathers rarely spoke to their children, and when they did, it was, "Go get me the belt, boy, because you're going to wear your ass out." And the wife didn't dare speak up and say things to the husband that he didn't want. And I'll tell you right now, if a man was to beat his wife half to death, the police would show up and say, "What did she do to deserve it?" They would not arrest the man for this. Okay? The words date rape did not exist. The 1950s was if you were not a white man, the 1950s was a horror show. Even if you were a white man and you had long hair. Bad thing. You might as well just put a communist flag on your face and walk down the street. Seriously, you're equal to a terrorist. I mean, the beatniks, they used to beat them in the streets. "Hey, hippie freak. I like your hair, honey. Let me braid it for you." Right? Like the crew cut was the cut. It was so crazy that in elementary school, kids used to wear suits and ties. I mean, the 50s was a nightmare. Okay, but again, if you were rich and you were a white man, it was a lovely time to live. If you were Dwight Eisenhower, it was cool as hell. At work, our worker is on call, so here's the hell of work. Ready to report at a moment's notice, working flat out to get back to the customer right away. He feels like a number. He doesn't watch out. If he doesn't watch out, he can take the fall for someone else's mistakes. So it's a world of viciousness. Remember Michael and Dwight, and they destroyed this prince. They destroyed that family, even though they were nice to them, and they had kids, and they didn't care. Only Michael really cared, right? And at first he didn't care. Remember, he went in there just to stomp on them. And then they remember when he wrecked this bumper, and they taped it back on, and they gave him coffee, and Dwight even spits it out and goes, "Ooh, what is this, instant?" Because Dwight doesn't give a damn. And you find out later in the episodes that Dwight's grandmother was a Nazi. And he speaks German. Anyway. This is Latch's heartless world, an image best captured long ago in Charlie Chaplin's satirical Modern Times. In that film, Charlie acts the part of a hapless factory hand on an automated assembly line, moving so fast that when he takes a moment to scratch his nose, he falls desperately behind, dwarfed by the inhuman scale of the workplace. Pressured by the line's relentless pace, Charlie quickly loses his humanity, goes mad, climbs into the giant machine that runs the conveyor belt, and becomes a machine part himself. A little side note, Charlie Chaplin also played Hitler in The Great Dictator. And he had the mustache for it, too. And a lot of people think that Hitler did that because of Charlie Chaplin. It's not true. He actually did that with some general or somebody that had a mustache like that. But I'll tell you right now, Hitler put the kibosh on that mustache. You ain't never going to see anybody wearing that mustache in the United States unless it's some idiot. And I'm writing a play about Hitler, and it's going to be, I'm going to play Hitler. I'm going to actually learn German and do his speeches. And I was thinking that I'm probably going to have to get a fake mustache, because if I walk around with a mustache on my face like that, this is going to happen constantly. Well, why are you wearing that mustache? I mean, like I go into Starbucks and get a coffee, and it's like whispers. Like, what the hell's this guy's problem? What are you, Nazi or something? Anyway. Although the devil beard, everybody wears, it's like the devil wears that, okay? So accordingly, certain pictures at least. Some pictures the devil is a woman. Anyway, the devil doesn't have a gender. Most likely. I don't know, but you never know. Anyway, It was just such images of home and work that were challenged in one of my first interviews in Amoco. Linda Avery, a friendly 38-year-old mother of 2 daughters, is a shift supervisor at the Demco plant 10 miles down the valley from Amoco headquarters. Her husband Bill is a technician in the same plant. Linda and Bill share the care of her 16-year-old daughter from her previous marriage, so there's a stepchild in there, and a teenager at that, a 16-year-old. There's a world of difference. I can deal with a 13-year-old. 16-year-olds, they're virtual adults in the sense that they're not going to listen to you. They've already come to their decision about what the world is, and they think they're smarter than Einstein, and they think they invented the world. And also, 16-year-olds seem to think that the world doesn't, that there was no world before the internet. Because if you ask them about something that happened in 1928, that doesn't register with their brain. 1928. Just like when people say 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what that means. There's no such thing. Okay? And anybody tries to... Talk about Nazism. 3 o'clock in the morning. That's only so stockbrokers can trade stocks in China. That's what that is. Or, so when it turns midnight, now I can work you 8 more hours. That's part of what it is. I'm telling you right now. Because the day starts when the sun comes up. It's like, who in the hell made January the 1st the beginning of the year? How about March 21st, the first day of spring? Okay? I guess it's maybe because if it was spring out when it was the first day of the year, people would really get drunk. Anyway, think about it. How much worse New Year's Eve parties would be if it was 60 degrees outside. It'd be like the 4th of July on crack and steroids. That's what it would be. Okay? It's already bad enough, isn't it? I know some of you probably think I'm crazy for this. And my dad said this to me once, "What, did you go down to Times Square for New Year's?" I was like, why would I want to go down there with 500,000 drunk people? And also, don't you think that, and I hate to say this, don't you think that that's a target? That a bunch of goofballs standing around at Times Square, I mean, some Al-Qaeda jackass comes into the crowd and pulls a rope. I mean, it's over, okay? It's going to be ugly. I don't want to see that. And my God, did you see Dick Clark? Poor guy. I mean, I guess he had, it's his life, but man, you know, it was kind of ugly. But on top of it, in general, why would you want to be down there? I don't set foot outside on New Year's Eve, okay? I turn on the TV and watch drunk idiots go, oh my God, now we're going to have to wait 4 hours for the train. And the train's always a lovely place at 2 o'clock in the morning, isn't it? I saw people vomit, like repeatedly in front of me, people bleeding, and they let people drink on the train, so they're already drunk, and they drink more. Then they get on their cell phone and start yelling at their boyfriend. It's like, my gosh. Anyway. A full 1/5 of American working parents do, says here, previous marriage, blah, blah. Bill works a 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift while I watch the baby, Linda explained. Then I work the 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift, and he watches the baby. My older daughter works at Walgreens after school. When we first met in the factory's break room over a couple of coats, Linda was in blue jeans and a pink jersey. Her hair pulled back in a long blonde ponytail. She wore no makeup, and her manner was purposeful and direct. She was working overtime, so I began asking whether Amoco required the overtime or whether she volunteered for it. Oh, I put in for it, she replied. You think it's because of the money? It's not. She said with a low chuckle, but I wondered out loud, wouldn't she and her husband like to have more time at home together? Check this out. Finances and company policy permitting. These are the feelings that your parents will never express to you. Maybe when you're 38 and you have your own kids and they're laughing at how stressed you are. And grandparents love that crap, and they love to spoil children. They pump them up with candy and then drop them off at your house. And then they shove candy in their pockets too. And everything you say, a lot of grandparents will they'll tell the kids the exact opposite. Okay? And they hand them money. I love my grandparents. They hand me silver dollars and lifesavers and all, candy and here's some coffee and seriously. I think one day my grandpa gave me wine. Okay? Smoke a cigar, take a puff off my cigar. I mean, that kind of stuff. Okay? But this is what your parents won't tell you, again, until you get older, how they felt. Linda took off her safety glasses, rubbed her whole face, folding her arms, resting her elbows on the table, and approached the question by describing her life at home. Listen to this, and add this to the crying at the refrigerator. I walk in the door, and the minute I turn the key in the lock, my older daughter is there. Granted, she needs somebody to talk to about her day. The baby is still up. She should have been in bed 2 hours ago, and that upsets me. The dishes are piled in the sink. This reminds me when I used to work at Pizza Hut. We'd get done making pizza and go over, and there'd be dishes stacked up to here. And be like, you can't leave till you're done. The only good thing is we got paid by the hour, so we like take real slow. Anyway, my daughter comes right up to the door and complains about anything her stepfather said or did, and she wants to talk about her job. My husband is in the other room hollering to my daughter, Tracy, I don't ever get any time to talk to your mother because you're always monopolizing her time before I even get a chance. They all come at me at once. To Linda, her home was not a place to relax. It was another workplace. Her description of the urgency of demands and the unarbitrated quarrels that awaited her homecoming contrasted with her account of arriving at her job as a shift supervisor. So there's the chaos. Listen to what she gets at work. I usually come in to work early just to get away from the house. Again, something your parents will not tell you to your face. Okay? Just like probably some of your parents told you you're a great singer when in reality they hope you never go to American Idol and use your real name. Okay? Make up a fake name. Say you're William Hung III. I don't, I mean, my gosh. Anyway, although I don't think they're going to believe that. We sit, we talk, we joke. They'd be like, you're no William Hung. I let them know what's going on, who has to be where, what changes I've made for the shift that day. We sit there and chit-chat for 5 or 10 minutes. There's laughing, joking, fun. My coworkers aren't putting me down for any reason. Everything is done with humor and fun from beginning to end, though it can get stressful when a machine malfunctions. For Linda, home had become work and work had become home. So this is where you want to be answering this question here. Okay? So mark this page. Linda felt she could only get relief from work and being at home by going to the home of work. As she explained, my husband's great help watching our baby, but as far as doing housework or even taking the baby when I'm at home, no. He figures he works 5 days a week. This is his child. This isn't the 16-year-old. He's not going to come home and clean. And I'll tell you right now, you know what most men will do if a woman or their husband tells them, or their wife tells them to clean? And this is what Bill Cosby said this. And I actually saw him in the front row or second row over here. He was describing his wife wanted him to cook breakfast for the kids, so he went downstairs and gave him grapefruit juice and chocolate cake. To be an idiot. But this is what men will do. You tell them to vacuum the floor, some of them, not all of them, but the ones who are trying to get out of housework, and I'm sure a lot of wives do this too, but not as many. They'll take the vacuum cleaner and throw marbles or something on the floor and suck them up and break it. Or do a bad job, like you want me to dust? There you go. I'll tell you right now, those of you who clean your own house, which is probably almost all of you, isn't dusting the most worthless piece of junk time in your, at least washing the dishes, there's like, it's something worthwhile, like it has a dusting is like one of those things where it's like you don't know how much you should do it during the week. And always when I dust something, then 10 minutes later I see some other dust. And I'll tell you also, dust is kind of disgusting because most of it's dead skin cells. And little mites. Like, next time you dust, take the dust cloth, put it underneath, probably some of you don't want to see this, put it underneath a microscope and tell me what you see. And tell me when you see little dust fluttering in the air if you're not going to think that big of a deal about it. Oh, luckily your body can handle a lot of garbage, okay? There's bacteria that lives permanently in your intestines, and if it wasn't there, you'd die. So, your body is a colony of other creatures. Okay, you have billions of creatures inside your body, so there are some creatures that want you to live. Okay, even beyond your parents and stuff. Anyway, but he doesn't stop to think that I work 7 days a week. Why should I have to come home and do all the housework without help from anybody else? My husband and I have been through this over and over again. Even if he would just pick up the kitchen table and stack the dishes for me, is that really that hard? What's that take, 5 minutes? Like I sometimes, not at this school, but in other schools there's chalkboards, and the professors will just leave writing all over the board. And I sit there and I tell the students, time me. 5 seconds. And here's the issue. 5 seconds of work stops months of resentment. Because what's that look like to this woman? That he won't even pick the damn dishes up. Look, I'll tell you right now, if you just wash dishes while you're cooking, you don't need to do it afterwards. I mean, if you wash them before they get all crusty and hard, like if you've ever made something with like pizza sauce or tomato sauce or something, and it gets all or anything like that, or something with grease in it, clean it immediately. It is so much easier to clean. But again, you know, when you come home from work, are you always in that mood? When I get home from work, I just want to sit down and do nothing for hours. And I got, like tonight, I got to go work. Okay, I got to do models for my dissertation. Okay, which is one of the reasons why I'm sitting in a bad mood. Anyway, it wouldn't be such a bad mood if I didn't help. Anyway, on his weekends off, I have to provide a sitter for the baby so he can go fishing. So it goes on and on. Now, with the remaining time, we only got about 4 minutes here. I want to talk about how the people were treated who dared to ask for time off. On page 67, even though I'm not going to have a chance to read, that talks about the impact of workaholism on the family. So this is an instance. This is in the chapter. All my friends are working. I think all my friends are working these. So listen to this. This woman named Eileen. She made an arrangement which is allowed under the Family and Medical Leave Act, which again was enforced by the government. It was actually not signed until 1994. It is basically Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George Bush I, all refused to sign it. When by 1975 or so, almost every single European country, including ones dominated by the Soviet Union, the evil empire, gave paid leave off. We still don't give paid leave off. And this should concern you as those of you who go to restaurants, that if there's ever a swine flu epidemic in this country, people are going to be at work with swine flu. That's your government's attitude, and the attitude of corporations, that we don't care if somebody sneezes on their hand and touches your food. And if you've ever worked at McDonald's, sweat comes down your face. And it gets everywhere. Okay? Anyway. So this is a conversation that she had about the fact that the resistance. So one of the ideas here is that there's this policy that the company is supposed to be supportive, it's supposed to be a family-friendly environment, and they're supposed to help internalize and support the family-friendly policies. This is what in reality happens. This is what we call decoupling. And it's very subtle pressure, because you'll never hear a manager go, all right, you can't ever take, how dare, I don't care about this law. You're never going to hear him say that kind of stuff. Just like you're never going to hear him say, like, yeah, I like to work my employees until there's nothing left. You'll never hear him say that, but isn't that, I'm telling you right now, in the backwood, and this is becoming more, harder and harder to hide with cell phones and cameras. They caught a cop the other day saying, yeah, I'm going to make some stuff up. They caught cops killing a guy in the San Francisco subway system, too. Beat him to death. So I got news for people who are abusive. There's cameras everywhere, so you go ahead and you do it. Okay? Anyway. Eileen continued, so she takes 60% off. She goes, Eileen continued to excel in her job, but her boss was still skeptical about the 60%. He thought that since I was part-time, I must not be answering my phone and the company must not be satisfied. But I did my 10 to 3 o'clock day. The secretary took all of the calls with, she's in a meeting and we'll get back to you. Remember the male-dominated reality and the male's attitude towards family reflects time and also towards family duties and also toward the workaholism. The customers didn't even know I was part-time. Finally, Eileen and her boss came down to the issue, so they got to basically an argument. That one level up was dividing Bill Denton and Vicki King. He said to me, Eileen, I don't know how to do part-time. And this is the man. My experience is that people who put in the hours are the ones who succeed. I said, measure me on my results. He replied, no, it doesn't work that way. What matters is how much time you put into the job, the volume of work. You see the stupidity of this? And she goes on very cleverly to do this, and it didn't impress him. She tried to use logic and say this. Eileen replied, excuse me, say you and I mow your lawn. You got it done in 3 hours, I got it done in 4 hours. We do the same job, but you get it done in less time. Should I be the better worker because it took me longer? She goes on as well. Her boss was quiet for a while and replied, I'm listening. I haven't said no, but this is a new one for me. It doesn't feel right yet. That shows you that the policies were being imposed on the corporate culture and not being absorbed. That's all I know how to understand as a basis for getting ahead. As Eileen's boss saw it, the work bargain was a given. Part-time, as its name implied, was only a part of a whole. To work part-time was to renege on an agreement to do a whole, complete job. Formerly he had more of Eileen's effort as he saw it. Now he had less. What seemed to carry little weight for him was the obvious financial benefit of the new arrangement. Eileen was now paid 40% less, but she would stay, and it goes on to say, because we're running out of time, that she would even stay afterwards, even when she didn't have to, out of the feelings of guilt, even though she wasn't getting paid. And on top of that, she was still doing her same volume of work, and yet was being paid 40% less. You'd think a company who was obsessed with saving money would enjoy that. But again, that corporate culture of workaholism trumped that reality. All right, everybody, have a good weekend. I'll see you next Wednesday. Make sure everybody gets the attendance sheet. Layer after layer of thin culture was thus poured on from the top. Remember, one of the things, that culture comes from the top, like the culture of the New York Giants. If you're late for a meeting, you're in trouble. But the Jets ain't so much. Okay, as long as you bring in some dirty socks or something for Rex so he can smell them. You heard what I said, Rex. What are you going to do about it? You're a foot-sniffing weirdo. Okay, and you're turning out to be, seems to me, a bad coach with a big mouth. Hey, I like the Jets. I'm just trying to be honest. I'm trying to help you, Rex. We believe in diversity. We believe in valuing the individual. We believe in delighting the customer. Smelling feet. The CEO would enunciate new shifts or reaffirm old themes in company culture to finally crafted speeches received with great seriousness. The higher up in the company or the closer to the head